I'd like to call to order the Westborough Economic Development Committee meeting for Tuesday, May 7th. I think we do have some minutes that were circulated from April 2nd and March 5th. I wasn't here on April 2nd, so I'll leave that to you guys I'll abstain from that, but anybody have any comments? All right. If not, anyone want to make a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes from April 2nd.
Second.
All right. We don't have anyone online yet, I believe.
No,
right?
there's no one
Okay.
online, so we can
All
vote.
right. So, all in favor? All right. Great. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is the small business grants. Mark?
Yep. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to be, while we have the applicants behind me here, we're going to have them go in order now. We have 4 applicants in front of you. Everyone should see in those green folders, you should have all the applications in front of you, have been reviewed, and for you to have there. I don't know the order, Todd, if you want to call them in the order off the
Why don't we
agenda.
just
I
go
don't see it.
we'll go in the order that we have it on the agenda. So coffee and pie would be first.
Do you need your computer plugged in? Actually, do you want that? I have it if you want it. I do. Yep. I'll put it up. Give me 1 second. I got it right here. I got to come over to you there. Oh. You're on Zoom. You can just, yeah. We got somebody coming in now as well.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody.
Aiden,
My
can you
name
get
is.
that to come up? I don't know. Aiden, can you get that to come up? Oh, there it is on that one. Okay, there it is.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Abdullah Al-Shaq. I'm the owner of Coffee and Pie on 276 Turnpike Road. We've been in business for a year now, a year and a month. We opened April 1st, 2023. And right now, over the past year, as a new business, we faced with a lot of challenges. But our main goal was to survive the first year, since it's really, really difficult for a small business to survive the first year. With my wife and I, financially, we supported the business, regardless of the loss by the end of the year, which was expected and something we counted for. We had about $60,000 loss, but the good news is we are projecting better income this year. With that being said, there are a lot of things that we put on hold to improve our business. So we're looking at maintaining our quality, but cutting costs in areas where we can. One of the things that we've been thinking about to cut our cost is, on average, we see in 2023 we saw about 60 customers a day. The way our layout set up from the previous coffee owner, it was set up all for to-go containers, meaning that the surfaces of the bar and the tables are all rough surfaces, and per Westborough Health Code, we cannot serve food on reusable plates, utensils, and etc. So 60 customers a day, that's 60 paper plates or plastic plates, 60 forks, 60 knives, and etc., etc. So what we'd like to do, we would like to cut our cost of the disposables. We have this set up to run on full service, meaning we can serve on plates, utensils, and etc. We already have the supplies, but what we need to be up to code with the town's health code. Previously, I talked to the health department, and what we need to do is we need to have all our surfaces to be smooth surfaces that are cleanable. So one of them is the bar. An expensive way to go through it is to change it to marble or quartz, but we found a better way around it is to hire a local epoxy expert that's the name of it, epoxy expert, where they will be laying off a layer of epoxy on the bar area, so it can be easily cleaned. Another thing that we wanted to do is to change our tables. Doing our tables with epoxy would have cost a lot more than just buying brand new tables. So we thought about donating our current tables and chairs to one of the local NGOs and use this grant to purchase new tables. So that's what we are really hoping to get out of today's committee meeting. This is going to save not just some cost for us as Coffee and Pie, but it also save on the environment because we use a lot of disposables every day. Right now, we're looking about 100 customers per day in 2024, and we're hoping that number is going to even increase more. We are still recovering financially from last year's loss. Majority of all of this setup cost came from my wife's and I, since we are both have full-time engineering jobs. So we've been supporting the business ourselves financially, but we don't want to see our quality decrease. So we would like to cut costs in areas where it's not going to affect our coffee or food.
Okay. Well, thank you. Well,
Thank you.
wish you luck, obviously, and
Thank you.
continued, hopefully, improvement with your business. And we do appreciate you being a part of our recent year in review
Thank you.
celebration that we had.
Thank you.
Any questions for Abdul?
Hi guys, it's Alan. Can you?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. Hi Abdul, I just have a question. I thought that you and your wife were co-owners. Is that not the case?
Yes, we are.
Okay, because that makes a difference on your on how we rate things. Okay, it just you didn't fill that out on the application it was left blank, but I thought that
Okay.
was the case.
No, my wife and I have been since day one together.
Okay.
She is the one who takes care of the food and I take care of the coffee. That's the way we
Okay.
divide the task.
All right.
Right. Yeah, so that's a
Thank
great
you.
point, Holly, thank you. Mark, I think that would change the rubric, right? It would add another 5
Yeah.
points to their score?
Fred, I don't have a rubric on it. I see that. Thank you, sir.
It would, Todd.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would
So that
add
be a
an additional
score of
5
80.
points.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Well,
thanks.
is that, I mean, technically, I think it says 51%, right? I mean, I'm splitting hairs here, but she would need to be the majority owner, wouldn't she?
Well, it's it's either a women-owned business or a minority-owned business.
Okay,
So I think
Okay.
that they would qualify.
Yeah.
okay.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Quick
Oh, go ahead.
question, sorry. On the rubric here, it says they've operated in Westborough for 5+ years. Was there somebody else in the location beforehand?
No,
or-
that was an error. I apologize.
Okay.
I didn't catch that at all.
Okay.
So that actually adjusts it down to 70 then.
And I think they came before us last year, correct?
Yes.
For a separate grant,
Yeah.
okay. Just checking. Thank you.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you, everybody.
Next up, we have Fitness Together.
Hello. I don't have a presentation, but I just have a little blip that I wrote down, and then some materials that I can pass around as well.
Yeah.
Sorry.
There we go.
I'm just going to pass this around while I'm talking so that you guys can get
Thank
it
you.
around. Thank you. They're all the same.
They're all the same, so you can take one and pass.
In my name's Sarah Morrissey. I am the owner of Fitness Together at 57 East Main Street. I purchased the franchise in March of 2024. In 2023, I decided to leave my full-time steady job and to purchase a Fitness Together franchise in Westborough. Fitness Together Westborough is a 1,838 square foot facility with 2 semi-private suites. Both rooms provide all the equipment a client needs for their 45-minute one-on-one session with their trainer, so there's no need to wait in line for equipment like you would for a big box gym. All sessions are appointment only, which helps keep our clients accountable, as well as caters to those with busy lives who want to get in and out. After months of research and reviewing the P&Ls, I saw there was a great deal of potential for the business to grow and expand. Of course, this is all before I purchased. For starters, the entire studio itself was outdated in regard to paint color, as well as damage that needed attention immediately. Shortly before I took ownership of the gym, I had the entire studio walls repaired and painted. Next up was to replace 90% of the furniture, as it was incredibly dated. By doing this, I was able to bring in a new vibe to the facility, which it desperately needed. Just from updating the paint and furniture alone, I was able to retain some current clients who were thinking about not renewing with us before I took over, as they felt the current owner was giving up on the space and they felt their money was going to waste. After speaking with the trainers about where we could improve, it was clear that they were having a hard time keeping the clients motivated to work towards their goal, as the clients could not always see the results right away. I did some research and found the InBody, which is the pamphlet that is going around. The InBody is a body composition analyzer that provides accurate analysis. The InBody delivers standard measurements like percent body fat, skeletal muscle mass, BMI, and more. This piece of equipment helps us create programs for our clients when they first start out with us by just standing on a platform barefoot and holding on to arm receptors. We then retest the client again in 6 to 8 weeks after their first program by having them hop back on the InBody for an updated scan. The InBody will print out the analysis of your whole body and the breakdown which show them their progress the progress that they have made. Originally, these are going for about $7,000, but I was lucky to find it secondhand from a franchise that closed down shortly after it opened. So it's in great condition. Fitness Together has clients from all walks of life. Our clients range from 13 years old to 76 years old. We help clients who need help recovering from an injury, need to lose weight, or live with diseases where only strength training can help delay the progression of their disease. For example, osteoporosis. The InBody is able to show them how much their dry lean mass and skeletal muscle mass have increased since they first started training with us. The clients have loved this piece of equipment as it has opened their eyes to see, even if it may not show up on the outside right away, that the work is still being done on the inside. Additionally, I've also replaced equipment that was broken, as well as added new pieces of equipment that the clients and trainers had been asking the previous owner for. We have an updated and inviting office, consultation, and nutrition room where our clients can meet with us to discuss their goals, as well as our nutritional coach. I plan on purchasing additional resources for our nutrition program to bring more awareness to it, which will, one, bring in an additional revenue, but also help our clients reach their goals quicker and create lifelong changes. In the short 2 months I've owned Fitness Together Westborough, I've had many clients express their gratitude for the updates around the gym and for bringing life back into it. From all of my changes and new marketing approach, I've been able to bring on 12 new clients and have renewed about 10 current clients who are due to expire. Typically, in this industry, gaining 2 new clients a month will keep you steady. So by having 12, it feels good to know that all of my hard work and time has been worth it. And this is just the beginning. There's much more to come later this year.
Great, thank you. Well, I know that the franchise has been in town for a number of years, and we welcome you to town and
Thank you.
wish you nothing but success.
Thank you very much.
Any questions from the board?
Project. Thank you very much.
Everybody good?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next up is the Curvaceous Bride.
Good morning.
Hi.
My name is Mary Ann Stout. It's my husband, Tim. I'm the current owner of Mary Ann's Bridal Outlet. So I've been in business. This is the beginning of my 8th year. I'm a veteran in this business. Shortly after my husband and I got married, I was working in the professional world and just didn't like going to work every day. Fell in love with the industry, and especially with Mary Ann's Bridal Outlet, the industry of discount bridal. So I he and I got married, I opened my first store that October. It stayed open, this was in Marlborough, it stayed open for about a year and 8 months to the day that our first son was born. After Sam was born, I was considered an older mom. I was 35, and store, business, motherhood. He won. He was so cute. He won. And so I liquidated and closed the store. But I knew that that was my passion. I knew it was. But I also knew that I could redo this store again. But I couldn't redo being a mom to Sam. And later we had Aaron. And our boys are now 24 and 22 and thriving, and they're doing wonderful. So that was, I always say, my bridal career is the second best job that I've ever had, because motherhood to me was my first love. So I was in Northborough for 6 years. I was over by, a lot of you might know Rocky's Ace Hardware. I was in a little store over there, about 1,100 square feet. So I stayed there for 6 years. And the business grew. And when I reopened, I was adamant about working that business around my kids' schedule, baseball games, concerts, music, all that. So, you know, I did do the business. It wasn't necessarily full-time, but every year, including COVID, we were profitable. So I started looking. I've always had a love for Westborough. I love this town. My brother lived in this town for close to 40 years, and I've always loved this town, and I love the growth, because it feels like a big town, but it also feels intimate too. And I looked, for years I looked for a space, and I looked, and I looked, and I drove him crazy. And I saw a space at 125 Turnpike Road on Route 9. It doesn't look like a shopping mall. It's not next to Stop and Shop. It's just a beautiful, historic type building. And I saw the sign, and I just go. And I went in, and I walked through the doors, and there was a stairway going up to the second floor, and I went, oh my God, this is gonna be expensive, but this is it. And to fast forward, that was 2 years ago in April that I moved to Westborough. And I've since hired a couple more women to work with me. The store is thriving, it's doing phenomenal. Next door was a Muslim school. And I always had my eye on that space, and they were fortunate enough to purchase a building in Westborough. So they moved out, and you know, I approached the owner several times back and forth on what to do with the space. And the space, it's approximately 2,600 square feet. It is 2 floors, but it's set up very differently than my current space. So being in this industry, I've done really, really well with, you know, all sizes of brides. And to me, there's nothing more important than your wedding dress. And it doesn't matter what size you are, whether you're a 0 or whether you're a 28, it doesn't matter. And I see the huge gap, even in fashion, as well as in, especially in bridal, because bridal sizes are European sizes. They don't eat pizza. They don't eat pie. They don't eat, you know what I mean? They're European sizes. So size is very important to brides. It's very important, but you usually go up a couple sizes. And anytime I would ask questions, I'm part of a group of wedding gown store owners all over the country, Canada, all over the place. So it's a place to bounce off ideas. I'm like, where do you get plus size mannequins? They send me pictures of size 12 and 14. That is not a plus size. So I've had women come in and tell me just terrible stories that they have had at other places, and I understand that. Not everybody can cater to everybody. They just can't. And, you know, the vision of they gather up their family and their moms and their aunts and their sisters and their maid of honors, and they are so excited, and they come to the store, and they're waiting for that experience, you know. And the store has 2 dresses that literally they can put on their bodies. To me, that's heartbreaking. I have a second store in Mary Ann's Bridal Outlet that is just for plus size. for the reason that I don't want a size 0 standing next to somebody that is a size 28. I don't think it's fair. But that idea of expanding, the Curvaceous Bride is going to be a true plus-size store. There is none in New England. The closest ones are Long Island and New Jersey. So there is none in New England, and I don't know why. I don't know why. So I went back and forth with ideas, but I'm just so excited to offer that experience that I feel like every woman should be able to have when they go bridal shopping. They should be able to have that. They shouldn't have to have a size 10 held up to them and say, what do you think? They should be able to put that dress on, put the veil on, look at the whole look of it. And I think it's so well needed. I think it's people that I have told this about, different customers. I said, oh, I got something exciting coming in June. And I've had people cry because of their experiences that they've had. I just ordered the dress online. It was the only thing that fit. So with the grant, you know, I'm looking, you know, signage, and then furniture and fixtures is quite important in a retail environment. And I think when we did the application for Mark, we did list out everything. So the money would be used for signage and furniture and fixtures, and, you know, looks are very important in a bridal store. But I can tell you, I love being in Westborough. My business, even though everybody misses the right to take into the store, they got to loop around again. My business is doing phenomenal, and there's no signs of it stopping. So I thank you. Thank you for letting me share my passion with you.
Thank you. Quick question regarding,
Yes.
so were you originally in 125 Turnpike Road, and then the Muslim school space opened up, and now you're relocating into that space?
So
Is that right?
I'm sorry, I've probably confused it. Mary Ann's Bridal Outlet is going to stay intact, but next door it's a totally different store. They're not connected.
Okay.
And I didn't want them connected.
Yeah.
I want a separate store.
Yeah.
So, and
So
it
you'll
just
be
so
operating
happened.
two different stores?
I'm gonna,
Okay.
yes, I'll have, but the money is gonna be used for the Curvaceous Bride, obviously,
Yeah.
for the signage and furniture and fixtures.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So I got married in September of last year, and I went to your store and had a beautiful dress. So I think that the service that you're offering is great, and having some signage would be great, because I'm like, I went to Mary Ann's, and they were like, where's that? So yeah, it's a,
Great.
and your staff was wonderful. I think that, so in the application here, it says perhaps the simplest use would be payment of rent, so, but we would be looking at the fixtures and other things
Yes.
for that,
yes.
for the use
I
of
think
that
the
money.
signage and the fixtures is where we're at right now.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? No? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up is Yeoman's Ice Cream.
Good morning. My name's Kelly Marston. I'm the owner of Yeoman's Ice Cream. I'm third generation owner. It's my dad and I right now that are co-owners, I guess, as it transitions. We have been in town since roughly 1967, 69. There's nothing actually official because it was old farmer handshake thing. And one of the things that I've learned over the past couple of years of doing business in town is that we have to constantly grow and change. And I mean, our store turned into a drive-through during COVID. Only one person hit the building. That was interesting. But it's been so fun. Also having everyone's children has been amazing. We just constantly grow, and I bounce ideas off my staff, and they're like, let's do this, let's do that. So now we have food trucks. You know, people want a place to go, a destination. So we have food trucks. We have a lot of elderly people that are coming now. We have the buses that come in. You know, we see the bus, and out comes the walker. We know it's coming. And climate change, we have picnic tables. You know, it used to be an old farm. At one point, there was just barbed wire and a couple picnic tables outside. And over the years, we've tried to just constantly improve it. More parking to make the neighbors happy, crushed stone to make it more ADA compliant. We put in more picnic tables, so there was more seating for people, less people just sitting on the ground everywhere. But now with everything being so hot, we did umbrellas for a couple of years, which look great, but honestly, the winds that we get off the hill on the farm, they're just not safe. We had a couple of picnic umbrellas fly, and these were ocean rated, like you'd see them at a cafe at the Cape, and they had bases, and they would just either bend or snap or something would happen. So last year we decided it was time to put up pergolas, more permanent, not going to fly away in the wind. We could take down the awnings over the winter to preserve them. So we started that process last year. We've purchased them. I think you have the purchase price in there. And now we're looking to put shades over them to complete the shading process. But that's pretty much it. Mark came to me and said, "Is there anything you're doing to help and improve?" And I says, "Yes, I'm trying not to have people cook." I know I personally can't sit out in the sun for long, so so we're adding shade, but we have a new freezer because we're doing wholesale to go, just constantly changing, growing, that type of thing.
All right, great. Thank you. Any questions?
So where are the pergolas going to be, or where are they located?
So they're in the back of the building. So if you go into our shop, right behind the building, there was a fence, and we had just a couple of picnic tables. So we built the pergolas over the picnic tables.
Got it. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? No? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. So we have 4 applicants in front of us. Mark, what do we have left for balances in the account?
We are, because of our last meeting, we voted to start back to give back the remaining balance what we had last year. So we were just given we are starting a new, technically,
Right.
calendar cycle for the
So we're-
grant program. So we have a full $60,000
Okay.
at this point in time.
Okay. Any thoughts from any of the committee members on how would like to go about potentially distributing some funds here? I think as far as the rankings go, we have Coffee and Pie at 70 points, Fitness Together at 80, Curvaceous Bride at 75, and Yeoman's at 80. Anyone want to make a suggestion? Go ahead.
Sorry, Coffee and Pie's at 70, I thought that they went up because of the minority women, but then because it wasn't 50%, when they went down, but then did they pick up being minority?
They went up
But
5 points to 80 for being the minority, but they lost 10 points for not being operating in Westborough for 5
Oh,
years.
it's 10, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. So I think we typically, in the past, we've we've tried to limit our funds around $15,000 a quarter, I believe. I don't know if people want to continue doing that, or if there's other thoughts, ideas. Love some input here.
I mean, I think especially since this is the first round, I think, we want to be careful.
Right, right. Yeah, the program obviously isn't slowing down. And this, Mark, just so the committee understands, there are more applicants than what you have here, right?
Yes, there were 3 additional applicants that were still under construction, not open yet, so I thought that it'd be best not to come forward at this time when they weren't physically open yet until the doors were actually operational.
Yeah.
And then we also had 3 nonprofits apply that I've learned since then that nonprofits cannot be part of this program, but we did have 3 submit applications.
Okay.
That I've told them the information.
Yeah, yeah. So I think I agree with Sean, and I don't know how the other members feel, but I think limiting to 15,000 is the appropriate tack to take as it relates to the first quarterly disbursements here. Any thoughts on how we want to distribute these?
I found the Curvaceous Bride presentation compelling myself. They've left other communities and ended up here. They have one location. They
Yeah.
did a second one. They're servicing a need that's not currently been serviced. We need more visibility of businesses on Route 9. All those things speak positively to me.
Yeah.
I agree. And just the fact that there's no, in New England, there's no one serving, that community, and to have a place dedicated for comfort was
Exactly. It'd be one thing to carve off a section. It's a whole other thing
to
to have a
dedicate
separate
that,
location.
yeah.
Yeah.
I like Yeoman's project, I think, especially, they are putting forth 80% of the project.
Yeah.
Just asking for some assistance.
Yeah.
And I think with Coffee and Pie, the couple supporting the business and dedicated to staying in business and trying to make it a more comfortable place for the public to go is also pretty compelling.
The fitness together was good because, with the fitness, it's such a competitive market, and you have somebody in Westborough that's investing and
Yep.
staying in Westborough.
New ownership, correct. Yep. So all good projects, and I think that
Yeah,
in a
every
perfect
project's
world,
good.
we give everybody a $5,000 check and call it a day, but obviously we can't do that. How do people feel about maybe doing 4,000 for Yeoman's, 4,000 for Curvaceous Bride, 3,500 for Fitness Together, and 3,500 for Coffee and Pie?
I would say my only concern about Coffee and Pie is this is the second time they've come before us. This shouldn't be a recurring
Had we done
program.
something for Yeoman's before?
No,
This is the
Yeoman's
first
is
time?
not, no.
Okay.
And in the application, it does state that you can apply on a fiscal year, just within the application. We could obviously change that, but that's what it says at this time.
Yeah.
I agree with that, Todd. I think that sounds reasonable.
I just wanted to throw it out there as a starting point for discussion, so I'm welcoming any input that others on the committee have. Fred, you look like you have some thoughts over there.
No,
No?
I think that if you want to award to all four, that's fine. They're all good applications. I would weigh the Coffee and Pie just a little bit to the fact that we've already granted them a grant before. Doesn't mean you eliminate them completely, but
Well, I guess I kind of view the Coffee and Pie, and maybe I'm looking at it incorrectly, but similar to what we did with Westborough House of Pizza, where they had a code issue after the fact. And I think this is something that's been brought up, and it's impacting his business and the environment, quite honestly, too. So I think that I don't really, I don't know, I don't feel bad about giving him money a second time around. That's just my personal feelings. I think
Yeah, and
that,
I think, if it's built as a to-go business, but if we're looking for more gathering places and building up our Route 9 businesses, and that's more of a business-friendly area, I agree with Todd. Yes, it's something that needs to be addressed, and they're addressing it in a way that they're not replacing it with granite and marble. They're not going after the most expensive thing, but it's a cost, and
yeah.
it creates more of an environment.
May I ask what the previous grant was used for coffee?
Sure.
Thank you. We used it to purchase a display fridge for desserts.
Mhm.
And how much was the grant award?
$1,200.
If I could, Todd.
Absolutely.
Just another question in regard to that, and sorry, it's a little bit separate from the grants. I know we need to get through these, but it's a Board of Health requirement in Westborough or beyond? Like, is that a Westborough,
Yeah,
not issue,
statewide, or
but it
you're
is
asking-
statewide?
I don't know if it's statewide or if that's a Westboro-specific
Fred know?
Board of Health
Do-
issue.
Do you know if the issue is for the issue they're having with the tables and the counters? Is that a Westborough health code requirement or state?
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, okay.
We only got the Westborough Health Department to do the inspection for us.
Yeah.
Right.
And
And it's not something that they have to do. They're choosing to.
No, understood, but to Todd's point, thanks, yep, to Todd's point of, environmentally, that's not really where we want to be going. I'm wondering if our Board of Health needs to look at whether that's, if it's a state requirement, then that's a different story. But if it's just a Westboro requirement, maybe we want to take a look at why we're
Yeah.
doing that and whether or not we want to continue to do that. It occurred to me because I was at Coop, and they also use all disposables.
Yeah.
And so it
Yeah.
was occurring to me that I think we're trying to move away to some degree when you're eating in a location, move away from that. So just curious about that. Sorry to digress
Yep.
from the grants. But just
Any
wondering if it's Westboro that's causing that issue or if it's a bigger state issue. So thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I agree with Sandy's point about, gathering points. I felt the same way about the House of Pizza. If we have places to gather, it's all the better if they're visible, but it just makes the town more attractive. So I'm a big fan of that.
I mean, I'm fine with Todd's proposal. I would say, I think with Westboro House of Pizza, we ended up funding their tables and chairs outside. And specifically made the point that we don't use money to get people
Yeah,
up
you
to
may be
code.
right, I don't.
Right.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
but I'm comfortable with the proposal.
Anyone want to make a formal proposal? I was just throwing it out there.
I make a motion to support Todd's suggestion of 4 for Yeoman's, 4 for Curvaceous Pride, and 35 for each of the others.
I second that.
Okay, we'll have to do a roll call because now we do have a couple members online. So Alexander, yes?
Coker, yes.
You just sort of go over.
Henderson, yes.
Keo, yes?
Bagden, yes.
Bernardo, yes.
We got both of them. Go ahead.
Rayleigh, yes.
Williams, yes.
Holly
Kenny, yes.
and Mark.
Moreau, yes.
What are you in a plane?
No, I'm in a bus going through Lithuania.
That is dedication, Mark. Only you. Only you. Wow. All right. Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody, and thank all the
Congratulations,
applicants as well.
Yeah, congratulations. Thank you.
That's classic.
I'm in Lithuania. Thank you. Take care.
Okay, next on the agenda is the Business Expo. Mark?
Yeah, quickly, I just wanted to get up here and remind everyone that tomorrow, I can't believe it's already here, is the Business Expo. Thank you for a couple of you guys have signed up, and a few have reached out and said they have other obligations and can't make it. I'm going to send out a reminder email again today. There's a couple spots. I have someone at the booth at least with me all day, so I'll send out the reminder again today if anyone wants to sign up. But if you haven't, please feel free to come. It is, just to remind everyone, it's at the Best Western Royal Plaza Hotel in Marlborough. That's at 181 Boston Road. And once again, thanks everyone for coming. And if anyone has any questions or anything, I'm happy to take them now, or you can reach out offline.
And just as a quick note, they are going to be moving back to the DoubleTree next year, but because they're in the construction, that's why we're in Marlboro this year. So.
That's the hope, yes.
Great.
Did you say you should?
Mark, this is Pete Allen. One question.
Yes, sir.
I saw that no one is signed up to help you with setup. I think you're alone on setup. Do you need help at 3:30?
I mean, I think I should be okay, but if you want to come in, obviously I'll take a hand. But if you're, like I said, if not, I can definitely get everything over there. I'm not moving a huge display or anything, so just a couple of the signs and some paperwork, so.
Yeah, Peter, I usually help with that too. It's Fred Leonardo.
Thanks.
Thank you, Peter.
As far as the booth attendees, do you have people?
I have someone with me at least every hour, so I'll be there from 4 to 7 through the whole thing, and then there's at least one other member of the EDC so far has signed up to kind of man it with me, so I figure between the two of us, I can take a break here and there or take a walk around and leave someone, and then vice versa.
I'll volunteer.
Okay, I'll send out an email, like I said, if anyone wants to sign up, or just come in. If we have too many people there, I'm not gonna complain. If there's 4 of us standing there, we can, and it's not gonna be an issue. So thank you very much.
And then what about breaking down the stuff?
I do have someone signed up to volunteer, did volunteer to break down with me, so we should be all set there.
Great. All right, thank you.
All right, I'm gonna step aside.
Next up is the water moratorium and stormwater utility fee. Chris?
Yeah, and in your folders, I didn't put the water moratorium letter, but in your folders, there should be a letter on the sewer, the FAQ on the stormwater fee, sorry. If anyone, just so they can have something to reference.
Good morning, Chris Pant, Director of Public Works. I was invited to come speak with you about a couple of topics. So just mentioned the stormwater utility and the sewer moratorium. So I basically will just give a quick summary of each and then any discussion that we want to have. So stormwater utility is something that is implemented in July of this year. So the first bills will go out. It's a fee. It's very similar to a water utility or electric utility. We manage stormwater similarly. So the gist of it is that when you use water, you pay for water based off of how much you use. So it's measured by a water meter. Same thing for electricity. Stormwater is done a little bit differently because we don't have any way of measuring it. So the technique used is impervious area. So the square footage of a property, the impervious area, which is anything that water doesn't go through. So your driveway, your roof, parking lot, any of those sorts of things. So we measure the impervious area, and then there's a rate schedule that identifies how much each property owner would pay. That goes into a specific fund that is used to maintain and manage our stormwater infrastructure throughout the town. So again, the impervious area on the property is just the tool for determining the fee. Where the water goes on the property is not, that's not really related to the fee. It's the fee that's being paid is, as I said, going into a fund, and that fund not only potentially is used to maintain infrastructure, public infrastructure that's around your property, but it's public infrastructure across the town. And so everybody that's a property owner benefits from the public infrastructure that's across the town, not just that which is right next to your property. And so that fee is used to maintain that infrastructure. So there's a maintenance side of things. So the town meeting just recently passed our budget. That budget is to do daily operations for maintenance of our infrastructure. And then there's a capital focus. So a majority of the funding is intended to eventually be used to pay for capital projects such as culverts and things like that cost significant amounts of money. And we want to have a way to consistently pay for that. So that's the stormwater utility. And we can either take it one at a time, or I can talk about both.
Yeah, why don't we do one at a time? I
Yeah.
think that's a good idea. Any questions for Chris regarding the stormwater management?
So the fee, and I'm going to start ready. So the fee, if you have a building that's 40,000 square feet and you have 60,000 square feet of parking lot, so you're saying you're going to be taxed on 100,000 square feet?
You pay a fee on 100,000 square feet, yes.
Right.
So the single-family residents are structured according to tiers. So there's 3 tiers. The regulations are posted. I can talk the rates specifically if you want to, but there's 3 different tiers. The base tier is what is used for commercial properties as a multiple. So out of that 100,000 square foot property, you divide that by 2,000, and then multiply that by your monthly fee, which is $4.81, and that gives you your monthly fee. The fee is actually paid quarterly, so 4 times a year. But yes, to answer your question, 100,000 square feet is what the number would be for that property.
So using that example, that's a $240.50 fee for the year, right? Taking the 100,000, dividing it by 2,000, and then multiplying that by 4.81
That's for the month.
for the month. For the
Yeah.
month?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. So that's almost a $2,900 fee.
Yep.
I like my calculation better. I'm sure you do too.
Yeah, that's, so I guess, is that discouraging building? And because you're gonna be paying extra money?
I can't say yes or no, but I know that these fees are common. There's dozens in Massachusetts, and there's thousands across the United States, and I don't know that there's any evidence I've seen that indicates that that discourages development. I think, I'm not a developer, but I think typically, that cost, it's handed off for sure, and there's impacts of that, but I think that that's often considered just basically the price of doing the business. And those aren't my words, those are words that I've heard from other people that have thoughts on the process. So
I would just add, though, that, the projects that we will be doing with that money would come anyway. So you're either funding it through this fee, which is more equitable because it's based on your impervious surface, or you're funding it through taxes.
Yeah, that's what my next question is gonna be, is the fee gonna be taxed? So if you pay this much every quarter, will you be taxed on that money as well? So there'll be a state tax added to it?
Not sure what you're asking.
Well, so the fee, it'd just be a base fee going for the stormwater. There'll be no additional add-ons to it.
No. You pay your bill just like your water bill, and that's it.
Chris, on the frequently asked questions, it sounds like that's a quarterly fee, not
Yeah,
monthly.
that's what I was just going to
Yeah,
go
it
back
is-
to that.
it is
calculation.
quarterly.
So it's actually not as high as what I had calculated.
It's somewhere in between
No,
the two
actually,
of you.
I was going to highlight that.
100,000 divided by 2,000, right?
Yeah,
That's
it's
50 units. You multiply that by the 481, which is a quarterly, right? So it's 240.50 a quarter. Multiply that by 4, 962.
Yeah, I was going to highlight that.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing that up,
Okay.
because that is an error in the
Oh.
footnote of the regulations, which I haven't even talked to the town manager about yet. But
So it's a monthly fee.
that's a monthly. All of our documents up to this point in discussing it highlighted the monthly aspect of that, and unfortunately, there's a error in the regulation that was recently approved. So it's $481 per month.
All right.
So your quarterly fee would be, 4 times or 3
Yeah.
times 41.
So
I think it's
it
about
was
$14.
Just about 2,900.
Todd just keeps trying to bring that
I
number
know.
down.
Trying.
He's doing
Trying,
everything he
Scott.
can.
Well, just- yeah.
Everyone appreciates that, Todd. Keep going.
All right.
Todd?
Yes, go ahead.
So I think just a couple of comments. One is there is an opportunity to, and it's not credits, it's if you have stormwater capabilities on your property, you can receive a discount
Yep.
to your fee. And I don't know if you can mention that to the group here. It's escaping me
Yeah, and maybe give some
exactly how it
examples.
works.
Yep, so
What that
there's
is.
2 opportunities for, it is credit.
Oh, okay, that's
So
great.
it's a 20% credit or a 40% credit, and there's levels of effort required, obviously, to get either one. So the 20% credit is an application, and if you can demonstrate there's existing pre-2008, and 2008 is related to when regulations were published, but pre-2008, if there's some sort of infrastructure on your property, and I'm talking primarily commercial properties, not single-family homes, you fill out this one-page application. You have to demonstrate that you're maintaining the system that's on your property. So if you have catch basins or a detention basin or something like that managing stormwater, you have to demonstrate that you do the things you need to do to maintain those systems. And you submit that application, it comes to the DPW, we review it, and then potentially you get a 20% credit applied. And you would do that on an annual basis. The 40% credit is something a little bit more substantial. It's more likely going to apply to much larger properties that were required during the development of that property to install very significant stormwater infrastructure assets. And that requires, so it's a significant credit, 40%, but it requires, you're almost certainly going to need external support, meaning an engineer that's going to have to come in and validate the system is what it is, and that it's functioning, and that it meets the standards it's expected to meet. And again, that's an application, you submit it, and then we consider it, and then, you know, potentially you get that. So 20 or 40%. The way that works, so is in July, as I mentioned, we kick off the stormwater utility. The first quarter is when we'll accept applications. So the first opportunity you would have to apply that credit would be in the second quarter of the implementation. So July, August, so October-ish is when you would be able to apply that that fee or that credit
But you
if
have
you
to
were
apply in
accepted.
the first quarter. That is
You apply in the
correct,
first
right?
quarter, yep.
Okay.
How is this being communicated to, since we're just
Yeah.
in the business owner arena here, how is this being communicated? Because it seems like it's another fee, another tax, more, you know, so how are we communicating this to our businesses? Because this is the first you've heard of it?
Well,
Ish.
we knew about the stormwater management program. We didn't know all the details,
Yeah.
especially like this credits, and the calculation I don't think was clear to us at the time either.
Yep, so the process for the town investigating this has been several years, and we've had several public meetings discussing it. We actually came to the EDC a little over a year ago and went over the whole system. We've gone through Mark in the last couple of months to whatever his contacts are, which maybe not as everybody, but as many as we can reach out to, offering the FAQs, and reach out to us if you have questions. We've done the typical, you know, Facebook postings and things like that. So we're certainly interested in any other ways you guys know of. I know there's been articles recently to highlight. So anything we can do, we're trying to get the word out. Certainly, we don't want to surprise people. I mean, in some cases, it's a lot of money, and I think we all recognize that. So we want to make sure people are aware and not, you know, caught off guard. So if there's any suggestions for further ways we can communicate, we'll be happy to explore those.
Thank you.
So one more question is, does this affect the wetlands in any way? Because I know a lot of times the drainage you have can affect your wetlands, you know, because you do have wetlands on your property, and they're actually protected by the state. So I don't know if that would affect anything.
Yeah, it won't. I mean, obviously, it relates to stormwater management, but to the stormwater utility fee itself, it doesn't apply. It's purely based on your impervious area, and that's strictly used as a tool for determining the fee that is appropriate for the property.
Todd, if I could. Sure. And what about, you mentioned the application for a 20 or 40% credit. Is that annually that you have to apply for that application?
Yeah, it's annually. I think, you know, with the way it's really, you would submit it. The first time is kind of the intensive, like, review it, make sure everything's good, and then there's an annual basic checkup to make sure you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and you would formally submit it, but I see it as being less of a burden after kind of step one, as long as, you know, the property's doing the maintenance that's required over each year.
Right. I mean, I would want to make sure, especially where you said for some of these larger properties, if they're going to go that route and looking for, you know, upwards of a 40%, and they have to bring in an engineer and, you know, to some amount of cost to them, that maybe, you know, once they've done that every year would seem to me like a lot to be bringing someone back out to be checking on that. I don't know. It just seems like to stay in.
Yeah, so the initial step to basically get that certification
Yes.
would be your first application. Subsequent years is I mean, we haven't done it yet, but the way I would see it implemented is it's really just validating that you're continuing to do what you
Okay.
said you would do.
I mean, I would encourage us to
Yeah.
do that. I mean, obviously, we want to make sure that people are still complying, but to lessen the cost
Yep.
on that business owner. Thanks.
So, just using a real-life example, like I have a property that has catch basins on it. I have those catch basins maintained and cleaned every year. I always send copies of my invoices to the DPW, so you guys have record of it. Going forward, I'd have to fill out that application, and it's really just the same stuff that I have typically been doing as far as having those catch basins cleaned, maintained, showing proof to you guys, and then on a yearly basis, just continue to do that? Is that, if I'm
Yes.
understanding this correctly?
Yeah.
Okay. That's for the 20%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm not speaking about you
Yeah, no,
specifically,
I-
but I just, in general, I mean, we all, I think, in general, like to say we do certain things, but it has to be done to the certain standard,
Right.
right? It's not just that you have it and you say you did it, you have to demonstrate that you did it in some form or fashion. We're gonna come look at it and
Yeah.
then, then agree that it's done, it makes sense, and then, apply the
Yeah.
credit. But,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, if I'm paying somebody to do it, I'd welcome you to come look at it and verify it and make sure I'm not getting hosed. Okay, great. Andy, go
Just
ahead.
sort of one other comment. I think within Westborough, excuse me, we maintain a single tax rate, and I think that's very important. And so we do have to look at opportunities where certain locations should have a greater burden for a certain service. And so looking specifically at stormwater and creating a utility versus just having it go through kind of the normal town meeting process, which has been ongoing for a long time, I think this made a lot of sense. And by being able to do this, I think it also in some small way helps support our single tax rate within town. So I think that's one of the benefits of this capability. So
Yeah,
just
great
putting
point.
that out there.
Yeah.
Really good point.
That's a great point. Are there other communities that have implemented this as well?
Yes, a couple dozen across Massachusetts, but Shrewsbury has had it, one of our neighbors has had it for, I think, a decade or more. They've been around for a long time in a lot of places, yes.
Yeah, okay, great.
Is their rate the same as the base rate of 481?
Their rate is not the same as ours. We have their, I don't know their rates off the top of my head, but we have that information on our website. There's kind of a variety of what we took more of a, we tried to have an approach that was fair and equitable, but also simplistic and not, so some towns, and I think Shrewsbury is one of them, has kind of a whole slew of tiers. And so you have to kind of figure out where you fit, and we just have 3 and a simple math problem. It's not apples to apples is my point. So it's not, I can't tell you exactly how they compare to us, but I think the feedback we got when we talked to a couple of condominium associations, and their property manager works in other towns like Shrewsbury, this is just, I'm passing on what I heard, and he said it was comparable, but I don't know what that means.
Just a quick footnote about Shrewsbury. We covered that in the newspaper back when that was, and I think it was like 15 years ago, maybe 20. And there was a lot of frustration amongst the residents and so forth, a lot of outward complaining, but actually I think it didn't last very long. And I think it's just kind of a normal thing because it's to some people it seems arbitrary, but I think it makes good sense. And I think what Sean says is right on the money, that if we, it's not a crazy tax for business owners, and I think if it just, shows that they're carrying their load, I think it's a good thing.
Any other questions, comments? Okay.
Oh, sorry, but it's also, it's not really new. I mean, we're paying for it right now. So when we need equipment and culverts taken care of, that's all in our taxes right now. So it's not like we came up with a brand new way to tax people. It's just a different way of calculating that and servicing that, right, by creating this utility.
Yep.
So we're paying right now anyway, so it's just a different way of doing that. Thanks.
You sure you don't want to leave that as a quarterly fee rather than monthly? Sorry.
He did call the
Consider it.
math that you kept not doing right
Yeah,
simple,
yeah.
just by the way. Go ahead, simple.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah.
Just consider that.
Okay, so the next topic is the sewer moratorium. Maybe you're aware, not sure, but the town for about 2 years now has been updating what's called our comprehensive wastewater management plan, which is the plan that is approved by DEP that tells us how we manage how we expand or maintain or improve our system, our stormwater, our sewer system, and properly manage the system and grow it, or whatever the case may be. And one of the things that is identified is that we have a capacity at the wastewater treatment plant, and we have a requirement to go to the plant, and the requirement seems likely higher than what the capacity of the plant is to handle. And so So we've been looking at this and gathering data and doing some analysis and all sorts of things. Pretty heavy lift by a lot of people, and came to the realization that before we continue to issue out and provide an increased amount of flow to the plant, we should take a pause, get a better handle on what our numbers are, and make sure we have a good way forward for issuing wastewater permits or flow to future developments. So several weeks ago, a couple of weeks ago, the select board approved the sewer regulation, which implements this moratorium for 1 year. It was effective May 1st because it was based on there's some charter requirements regarding publication, newspaper, and things like that. So May 1st is the effective date. And basically, it says that there's no increase to our wastewater flow to the plant. Like we're not going to allow increased flow to properties until we have this issue figured out and we lift the moratorium. And so there are some exceptions, and those are all laid out in the regulations. They typically deal with people that already paid for something and we owe it to them already, and they just haven't connected or whatever the case may be. It doesn't mean you can't do anything with your property. It just means if you want to redevelop on your property, you have to redevelop within the bucket of allocation that you've already been given. So if your property's been given 1,000 gallons a day and you want to change your business, you can change your business as long as you stay within that 1,000 gallons a day or whatever the limit is for your property based on the permit. In the meantime, what we're doing is looking at every single property in the town, commercial, and we're also looking at single family, but that's more of an aggregate, and figuring out how much we've committed to the town, meaning on paper. So there's two types of flow, right? I'm trying not to get too detailed, but I want to make sure you have a good understanding. So there's the physical flow, like right now, what flows to the plant, it gets metered at the plant. So there's a little thing that says it's ticking away and it's measuring how much is going into the plant. So we know that number. So that's a given. But there's also a number that we've issued on paper that said, we gave Todd 100 gallons a day. He's only using 50, but on paper we owe him 100 because that's what we said we owe. And so that number is the number we're trying to get a better handle on, because we don't want to we don't want to overcommit, because if everybody did call us on our 100 gallons that we gave them, then we would be over our limit most likely. So what we're doing now is figuring out that delta between what we're allowed and how much we've overcommitted, if anything. And then the next step is how can we lower that overcommitment? And there's a variety of ways to do that, all of which we're going to take advantage of. I'm not saying the number's going to come down and they're going to balance out, but step one is to figure out how we get that number lower so our commitments match our capacity. And then once we have a handle on that, then we can, or simultaneously we're looking at other ways to expand our capacity, but that's a bigger, more complicated issue. And so we can talk about that, but there's lots of steps involved with that. So bottom line is we have a moratorium. It gives us an opportunity to make sure we have a handle on things and we're not issuing out while we're giving it away at the same time we're trying to figure out how much we have, and that's like writing checks maybe that we can't cash, and that's not a smart thing to do, as you guys all know. So that's what we're doing.
How do we find out how much we're allowed?
You would basically call us, the DPW, and if there's all kinds of caveats because we're talking about decades and decades of history here. So if it's recent, then we can tell you because your permit should have said you were given X amount of flow. If it's several decades old, permit might not be as clear, and so we have to calculate based on Title V, and so we figure it out basically and tell you unless you have documents that say otherwise. And ideally, it's black and white. It's on a permit that says you were issued X amount of flow.
And will that affect growth? So when will this go into effect? So if you're doing a project and say you're growing, when is this going into effect?
It's in effect now.
Okay.
Yep.
So as it relates to, I know you mentioned existing properties and credits that have been issued. What about raw land and somebody that wants to do a development? Obviously you're not issuing any credits for that, but are you not willing to review projects? Is it totally on hold, or are you willing to review projects but not give them final sign off for another year until you can, because I have a tough time with this, honestly, and I feel like this is very impactful, especially for the EDC, who's supposed to be promoting business in town here. I understand there's an issue and it needs to be addressed. I think that I would have liked to have seen it handled a little differently. Seems like I found out about it going to vote at the selectmen's meeting the day before. I was a little disappointed that the select board didn't have open it up for public discussion that night. I think that should have been done. I think there's a lot of questions here, and I can start to ask you some of my questions, but I think it would have been good to have public forums and discussions before. It feels like this was just jammed through, and all of a sudden we have this moratorium now for the next 12 months. Being a broker, there are guys in my office who have been asking me about it. They have potential developers and potential sites that, so what do I tell them? Do I tell them, well, don't bring them to Westborough now for another year because we're not even going to look at projects? Sounds like that's the answer, right?
So just to give a little history, is the town for, I think, well over a decade has not been approving multifamily housing.
Yep, I understand that.
And but we have a master plan that's written that says we're promoting the development of housing in mixed-use facilities.
Yeah.
And so to issue out all of our flow, and then we get to the end of the project, our study, and we say what our results are, and everybody says, go do, housing development. Well, we have nothing to give out because we just gave it out. So that's why we said put a pause. So we've already had a moratorium
on the residential side,
essentially in place, although it wasn't documented. It was just informally imposed. And so developers routinely come to us. I speak with many of them who are interested in housing, multifamily housing, and I'm not saying I know them all, but I know many that have property that they want to develop, and they've been communicating with me personally for, as long as I've been here, just waiting for answers. And they're not happy, but they understand where we are. And so I'm not saying it wasn't a surprise to you. I'm just saying it wasn't totally a new thing for a lot of the community that has an interest in developing multifamily housing, which is, to my understanding, the major interest of developers. Outside of multifamily housing, we haven't said no to any projects that I'm aware of. And to your point about, so what should they do? I think the first step is they talk with the community development and the planning director about whatever their project is, because there might be other reasons their project doesn't make sense beyond just sewer. And then we certainly are open to any conversations with anybody if they're kind of thinking about the future, and we'll give as much information as we can to help people predict and able to make smart decisions. But that's kind of where we are.
Yeah, and that's, I understand, from a big project perspective, but even from, let's talk about the smaller landlords that might have a tenant that is now, call it a soft goods retailer, and they want to convert, they've got a potential tenant that wants to put a restaurant in there that's going to require additional water and sewer.
Yep.
That's something that we can't, depending on the number of credits that were initially issued to that property, their hands might be tied and they might not be able to do that, right?
But I think to answer you're answering your own question, I think, which is that every project should be brought to the town for review, because there are some sort of exceptions, and then there's certainly the review of what was promised to the property. I kind of want to go back to what you were saying. I mean, I appreciate that, you know, education is really important, and so people were surprised by this, and I understand that. But in terms of getting feedback into the process, I mean, the data is the data. And so we know, and I think every single board member knew, that this was not ideal. And it's not something that we wanted to move forward with. But folks telling us that they want to bring business here, while extremely important, is not going to change the fact that we are getting close to our limit at our wastewater treatment plant. And so I think in terms of getting public feedback, I think we know the feedback because the select board said it out loud. I mean, it's not good. And I think that the other piece that I think we should be a message that we carry forward is that, you know, we're not making any promises, but the 1 year we felt was like a conservative approach in terms of, you know, when we'll find out and how we'll make next steps. So,
Chris, are we still on track for June to see those numbers?
We being the town, yes. I don't know when we'll.
I mean, with the consultant, you said the numbers are with the consultant.
Yeah, I don't know, when you say we, I don't know if you meant like you, I don't know when.
All of us
I don't know
together.
when we'll be
Yeah.
putting that out for everybody, but,
Okay.
but yes, we're on track for the timeline of so the timeline we talked about with the select board was in June, we would get this raw data refined into a table that we could then digest and kind of look at our numbers and come up with strategies for how we would, this is all just paper. Like, how do we, on paper, kind of lower our numbers? And then, you know, physical stuff is later, but yes, we're.
So you and I had a chat about this, and as it relates to the future, you said that it's a difficult lift sometimes to expand capacity on a sewer treatment plant. But knowing that we're probably not going to go down, I mean, is there any preliminary work that can be done on that?
Yes, and actually tomorrow, Westborough, Shrewsbury meet with the wastewater treatment plant board. If you're not aware, the treatment plant that is in Westborough is not Westborough's treatment plant. It's a regional plant. So there's a separate board that runs it, and it's made up of members from Westborough and Shrewsbury. And so they collectively have to decide, you know, that we can do things. And so Westborough doesn't dictate on its own any sort of, you know, improvements to that plant. It has to be something that's mutually agreed upon by the board. And even the board doesn't decide because there's regulatory things that dictate. And but yes, we've started that process, and there are probably other things we'll be investigating. I kind of get the eye roll when I talk about it, but we're doing this analysis right now on could we take clean water from the treatment plant, the wastewater treatment plant, and send it somewhere in the town and inject it back in the ground. And that has to do with water supply, like maintaining our water supply, but it also diverts water so all the water from our treatment plant goes to this big pipe, it's like this big, it dumps right in the Assabet River. I mean, you can go see it yourself, it's right off of Route 9. And that is what's regulated, how much water goes into the Assabet River, because there's all of the things that are in that water that aren't taken out, like they impact the quality of the river, and so and that impacts habitat, ecology, and everything else. And so that's the hinge point right there is what goes in that river. So if you can take some of that and send it somewhere else, and there's going to be requirements to send it somewhere else that in terms of water quality, but they're different. You could take it and send it back somewhere else, then you could keep sending stuff in the river and take an additional amount and send it somewhere else. I don't know if you can do that. We're looking at the feasibility of that, and that's years of effort to do that, but that's a possibility. And so we've got kind of multiple things going on at the same, like in parallel, to look at options for increasing our capacity, reducing our requirements, or what we've committed to. So lots of stuff.
Question regarding the moratorium regulation. There's language in here that says any application for a new connection or expansion that is denied will be considered basically after the moratorium is lifted. Is there an opportunity for somebody to appeal the decision? And if so, who would they appeal it to?
Appeal,
If their application's denied and they feel they have grounds for an appeal, is that something that is considered? And if so, who would that go to?
I don't know what you would appeal.
Somebody doesn't agree with the number of credits they might have on an existing building, and they have a tenant that they want to put in there that requires more, something like that, as an example off the top of my head.
We didn't set up an appeal process. It's a good question that we should understand because, you know, Chris as the DPW director is the water and sewer commissioner. The board had to approve this regulation based on our bylaw, so it's a question. It's a good question.
Okay. Anyone else have any other comments or questions? Okay. I guess that's it. Thanks for the update.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, next on the agenda is Jenny with the letters of support for the downtown development grant and the sewer project grant.
Those should be in the back of your folders as well.
Yes, thank you. So, under the One Stop for Growth program, which is under the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, or EOHLC, we are planning to apply for 2 grants. And the first grant would be the downtown rotary improvements. That is going to be a follow-up to our downtown plan, essentially. So where we're taking a more comprehensive look at the transportation aspect of it, hiring an engineering firm to do some more in-depth traffic analysis, infrastructure analysis, and do some quick build-out scenarios to analyze the impact of traffic. So what this would look like is, we have a few different scenarios that the current consultant is thinking of on how to orient the rotary to make it more pedestrian safe and just minimize impact to traffic flow. So the build-out analysis would be basically putting up barriers and just testing out different scenarios. I don't know what they would be, but that's what we would look to an engineer to do. We feel like because the Rotary is such an important area of town, it's right in the middle of downtown, that before we move into hiring an engineer to do a 25% design of any potential changes, we want to do a more in-depth analysis and also do more community outreach, do more public information sessions, and get that feedback from the community. So that's the first one that we're looking to apply for, and that application is due June 5th. There's also a separate application, and I should clarify that the One Stop for Growth program under EOHLC is an umbrella for many different grant programs, including the Housing Choice Grant Program, Mass Works, Housing Works, and many, many more. I think there's I think there might be about 20 grant programs. So the second grant that we're looking to apply for is for the sewer line rehabilitation. So there has been work already in the downtown area. The existing sewer pipe is over 80 years old. It's a clay sewer pipe. And so the DPW has already been doing work on that. And this would just allow that work to continue in downtown, which could help the overall flow. So those 2 projects, we, met as, a few town departments, and we felt that those were the priorities based on the master plan.
I just wanted to add, so Jenny just said it, but that sewer project all goes back to what the DPW is doing to try to deal with flow, because the older pipes could potentially have infiltration of groundwater, which increases our flow to the plant and reduces our ability to give flow to businesses. So really important. Both projects are really important, but just to tie it back to what Chris was talking about.
Yes, exactly. And then they wouldn't compete with each other because they're actually going to be under different umbrellas, so we wouldn't need to worry about the grants competing with each other. But part of it, as I'm sure you've had experience with in the past, is that letters of support are very important. We've asked for, planning board, we'll be asking the select board, and then EDC is a really important group to get a letter of support from.
Jenny, how much are these grants for?
So the approximate cost of the downtown rotary will be about 150,000, and then the sewer line rehabilitation, it will be over $1 million.
Thank you.
Okay. Everybody, as Mark said, we have copies of the letters of support in our packets here. Any discussion, and if not, would somebody be this kind to make a motion?
Go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead.
My apologies.
No, please, you take it.
I would make a recommendation that we authorize both letters of support for both grants.
I second that motion.
Okay. Alexander, yes?
Coker, yes?
Henderson, yes.
Keo, yes?
Bagden, yes. Bernardo, yes.
Really, yes.
Williams, yes.
Gingras, yes.
Yes.
All right, great. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Let's see. Next is the planning downtown development plan update.
Yes. So we had our first downtown plan meeting in May, and I think it was very successful. We had about 45 people attend, which wasn't as great as I wanted it to be, but it was still a really good turnout, and we had some excellent feedback, and we're very happy with it. Now we're going to be coming back on Wednesday, June 5th at 6 p.m. in the same location, the Great Hall in the Forbes building. And we're going to talk about how feedback from that first meeting and then the scavenger hunt that we did, which was the survey, how all that feedback could be incorporated. The consultants will have different recommendations in regards to transportation, zoning, different build-out scenarios of what's possible in downtown, and just some economic development recommendations. So they're going to come back with all the information, give a presentation, and then they'll look for the feedback from the public. So we're really excited to see that continued, public support and public information gathering. So I hope you all can make it.
Great, thank you. Looks like you're doing some nice work with that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any questions? No, comments? No? Next is the community development update. Fred?
Sure, thank you. I'm happy to say Dollar Tree is kind of on moving, so that's on 1 Oak Street, which is the intersection alignment and Turnpike. It's kind of an odd address, but anyway, they've started work on that, so hopefully in the near future you'll be able to buy more Dollar Tree stuff. And I sometimes talk about this, and I haven't for a while, but there's a lot of exciting things happening at Amazon at 50 Otis Street. They're converting their production lines, so they're no longer, as some people call them, producing the Roombas, the little runaround robots. They're actually going to be producing a different type of robot there. So, I would say Seattle has a vested interest in Westborough, and that's starting to really show on Otis Street, so that's great. And we're making progress on the Otis Street project. We're also, Jenny didn't mention it, but I'll speak for her now, is that Flanders Road, the intersection at West Park Drive and Flanders Road, hopefully that'll be concluded in the next few months, so that's starting to come to a conclusion, which was a MassWorks grant that the town received, so hopefully that'll come to complete fruition. The lights are up, they're not operational, but hopefully in the next month or so, a few months, we'll see those operational.
Great. Any questions for Fred? Anything? All right. I guess we don't have it on here, but I guess any new business? I just want to take a moment to thank Mark for all his work with the Year in Review celebration. I think that was a great hit, and I think the venue worked out well. People seemed to enjoy it, and we had plenty of room. And thank you for coordinating and all the efforts you put forth in getting that and making sure it was a successful event. So thank you very much.
That was a great job.
Yeah, really good job, yeah.
And I
Excellent
couldn't have
work.
done it, I'm not gonna lie, Karen, her team, they carry us in so many ways, they do so much every day for us that, I can't say thanks enough for the professionalism and everything they did for me to help me through processes when I was a little stumped. so
Yeah,
to say.
yeah,
Great. You guys
yeah.
did a
No,
great
great
job.
point. Thanks
Yeah, my
to
team-
Westborough
my
TV.
team. Yeah, that's great.
Any other new business? Go ahead.
I just wanted to mention, and it doesn't have any impact on businesses, but we're working on the implementing pay-as-you-throw in the community.
Oh, right, yeah.
And so we did have an informational meeting on April 30th, our first informational meeting. We'll have a couple more. But I think that there was, what we learned from that meeting was that there's a lot of confusion about who this will apply to. So Owen in our office has put together some infographics that we'll be sharing out. But just for all of you to understand, it's only, you only have to purchase the pay-as-you-throw bags to drop off solid waste at the transfer station. So I just think that that's important when most of your businesses you have pickup or you have dumpsters. It doesn't apply to those
Right.
Entities. And I think that there was a lot of confusion there. I don't think that there were any businesses in the audience, but I just wanted to mention it here.
And that goes into effect in June, is that right?
July 1.
Oh, July
Yeah.
1. Okay, thank you.
Mark, do you want to introduce the new ambassador?
Oh, sorry. We have,
We'll get Jen online.
Oh, Jen's online, sorry, I didn't see Jen online, thank you very much. Yeah, so exciting news, as I mentioned at the breakfast the other day, we have some new people that are interested in becoming ambassadors. Maureen Johnson, who was in the back of the room for a few minutes and just disappeared, as well as Jen Giuliano and Jake Staley here, as well as also looking to kind of get more involved in the committee. So this is exciting. So that puts us up to 5 or 6 solid ambassadors out there in different realms in the town that really kind of spread our word in areas that haven't been spread before. So that's a good thing as far as that goes. I'm excited to work with them and get their ideas. And Jen's already met with me and had some great ideas of what they can do that are kind of outside the box thinking that we haven't done before. So things like surveys of businesses, will open buildings so we can get an idea of what actually is out there. That kind of idea, which I thought were really interesting ways to use the ambassadors. So
Great. Well,
looking forward to working with everyone.
welcome aboard, and we appreciate you all of you volunteering to be a part of the ambassador program. I think it's a very important component to the EDC, and we appreciate your efforts.
Right.
And-
Sorry, could we, get a little, just the,
Oh.
smallest bit of background on
You
who
wanna
you
say
are?
hi?
2 sentences on who you are,
Who you are,
business
what you
owner.
do.
Just so people know.
Sorry, doesn't expect.
Sorry.
Sorry, I didn't prep
Yeah.
guys doing?
Make it longer, just the quickest.
He's
just the
bashful,
quickest
so.
bit.
So my name is Jake Shanley. Lived in Westborough with my family for almost 9 years. I was with Fairway Mortgage for about 8 years. I just switched over to guaranteed rate, doing residential mortgages. So, I got 3 kids, 6, 5, and 2. So we're getting them into sports and getting them into the community and everything. We did the town bike parade yesterday, so just kind of
Great.
trying to jump in.
Great, thanks so much.
Anything else?
Appreciate it.
Good.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Oh, that's great, thank you.
And Jen, you got lucky. You got to go second. So.
Go ahead, Jen.
Okay. Good morning, Jennifer. I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Jennifer Giuliano, and I'm a realtor here in town. I've lived in Westborough since 2014, all the way from next door in Southborough. And what can I tell you? I've always been interested in helping the town with different business ideas and work with business owners as clients, and are always being asked for recommendations on local businesses. And as Mark knows, I have an aversion to empty buildings, which is partly why I brought that up during the meeting with him. So I'd really like to get to know what your committee is doing, what you plan to do, how I can help, and just here to listen and help how I can.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yep.
All right, any other comments, any new business? No?
And just so I say this out loud to everyone, just as a comment to the water stuff going on in town, any new businesses, we're not stopping doing business. There are allocations out there, so businesses have allocations. I don't always know the answer, but I can reach out to Lisa. So as businesses anyone comes forward, please send them directly to me. I can work with Lisa and the DPW to find out the answers. Can that business go in? Can that not go in based on the allocations that already exist? So just because there's a water moratorium there, it doesn't stop us from filling empty retail spots potentially. So we can always have that option open. And if that spot doesn't work, maybe we can help them find a suitable location with the allocations needed. So.
Just to add to what Mark said, in addition to allocations being out there, you had asked about like raw land, and I think there's opportunities there too. And I know it's more expensive for the business, but I do think it's really worth the discussion with the departments if there's an idea out there.
Okay, great. Thank you. If there's nothing else, anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All right. Alexander, yes.
Coker, yes.
Henderson, yes.
Keo, yes?
Bagden, yes.
Leonardo, yes.
Really, yes.
Williams, yes.
Jingles, yes.
Kenny, yes.
There we go.
All right.
Yeah, and Lafayette.
Enjoy Lithuania. Thanks
Enjoy,
for joining us,
Mark.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Where in the world is Mark?